There is a reason your spirit keeps drifting back to the thought of them when the world becomes quiet. There is a reason their name rises in your mind during the smallest moments, when no one has spoken of them, when nothing around you should remind you of their presence, and yet somehow, there they are again. Not by accident, not without meaning, because the connection between you has not faded in the way you may have feared. In truth, something within them has only grown stronger in silence. They have been carrying thoughts of you in places they cannot explain, in the middle of ordinary conversations, in the pauses before sleep, in those strange moments when life becomes still and the heart becomes louder than the mind. You may not hear their voice yet, but make no mistake, your presence has been echoing through them in ways they can no longer ignore. And what they are beginning to realize about you now is changing everything. There was a time when they tried to treat what they felt as temporary. They told themselves it was only curiosity, only admiration, only a passing thought that would disappear once enough time had gone by. But the more they attempted to dismiss it, the more undeniable it became. Because some people enter a life quietly, and still manage to leave a mark louder than anyone else. You did not need to chase them. You did not need to force yourself into their world. Simply by being who you are, by carrying your energy, your kindness, your mystery, your depth, you shifted something inside them that had been asleep for far too long. They have met many people before you. They have spoken with many, laughed with many, shared time with many, yet none of them unsettled their soul the way you have. None of them made them pause and wonder why one person could remain in their thoughts long after the moment had ended. You became unforgettable without even trying. And that is what they are still struggling to understand. Do you know what troubles them most? It is not merely that they miss you. It is not simply that they want your attention. It is deeper than that, far deeper. What unsettles them is the realization that being near you changed how they see themselves. Something in your presence reflected parts of them they had hidden, parts they had forgotten, parts they never believed anyone would notice. Around you, they felt seen in a way that was both beautiful and terrifying, because to be truly seen is no small thing. Many go through life surrounded by people who know their surface but never touch their soul. Then suddenly someone arrives, and with a glance, a conversation, a simple moment, understands what others never could. That is what happened when you entered their world. You did not just interest them, you awakened them. And now they are wrestling with the weight of that truth. Stay with this, because something important is waiting for you in what comes next. They have rehearsed conversations with you in their mind more times than you know. Entire dialogues, entire confessions, entire imagined moments where they finally tell you what your existence has done to them. But each time they approach that honesty in their thoughts, fear interrupts. Not fear of you, fear of vulnerability. Fear of what happens when someone admits another person matters this much. Because once spoken aloud, such feelings become real. They can no longer be hidden behind distance, behind pride, behind silence. And so they have hesitated. They have lingered in the space between wanting to speak, and fearing what their truth might change forever. Yet silence has become heavier for them than expression. That is why the urge to reach out has been building with unusual force. What they wish to say is not casual. It is not ordinary. It is not the kind of conversation one starts simply to fill empty time. No, they want to speak because they can no longer pretend this connection left them unchanged. They want to speak because every attempt to move past it has somehow led them back to you. They want to speak because there is a truth pressing against their chest that refuses to stay hidden any longer. And the truth is this: you became significant to them before they even realized it was happening. Sometimes they think about the exact moment everything shifted. They replay memories and wonder, was it the way you spoke? The way you listened? The way your energy felt different from everyone else around them? They search for a logical explanation, but some connections refuse to be reduced into logic. Some people arrive carrying a familiarity that feels older than circumstance, deeper than timing, almost as if the soul recognized them before the mind ever could. That is the kind of presence you became in their life. Familiar, magnetic, unsettling in the most beautiful way. And now they are left with a feeling they cannot replace, cannot Duplicate, cannot explain away. Do not underestimate what that means. Many people are liked. Few are felt. Many are remembered. Few are carried in the heart with this kind of quiet intensity. You have become more than a passing chapter in their story. You have become the question they keep returning to, the thought they revisit when the night is long, the possibility they cannot stop wondering about. They ask themselves what would happen if they finally opened the door between you. They imagine what could unfold if they stopped resisting what they feel. They wonder if perhaps the reason they cannot release this connection is because it was never meant to be ignored in the first place. And yet, here is the part they have not admitted to anyone. What affects them most is not merely your presence, but the peace they feel when they think of being understood by you. In a world where so much feels performative, rushed, shallow, temporary, you felt real. Your energy did not ask them to become someone else. Your presence did not pressure them to perform. Around you, there was a strange relief, as if for a moment they could set down the weight they carry and simply exist. That kind of peace is rare. And when someone experiences rare peace, they do not forget it. They search for it again. They long for it in quiet moments. They compare everyone else to it without meaning to. And often, no one else comes close. So if you have felt a strange pull lately, if you have sensed their energy circling back toward you, if your intuition has whispered that something unspoken is moving beneath the surface, trust that feeling. Because there are conversations forming in silence before they are ever spoken aloud. There are realizations blooming in hidden places before they are shared. There are hearts preparing themselves for honesty long before their lips find the courage to speak. And this is one of those moments. But understand this clearly, when they finally come forward, it may not happen in the dramatic way you imagine. It may begin subtly. A message that seems simple on the surface. A conversation that starts casually but carries unusual depth beneath it. A small opening that slowly becomes something far more revealing. Because people rarely unveil their deepest feelings all at once. They test the waters first. They reach gently before they leap. They reveal truth in fragments when the heart has been waiting too long to speak but still trembles at being exposed. And when that moment arrives, you will notice it. Not because of what they say first, but because of what their energy carries underneath every word. You will feel the difference. You will sense the weight behind their presence. Because when someone has held back something meaningful for too long, even their smallest words begin to vibrate with hidden emotion. Even their simplest questions carry layers. Even their casual attempts at conversation become charged with the things they truly wish to say. So hear this carefully. You have touched their life more deeply than they ever expected. You altered something within them without demanding recognition for it. You made them reconsider what real connection feels like. You reminded them that certain people do not simply enter a life to pass through it, they arrive to transform it. And now that truth is sitting heavily on their heart. Don't skip, because the most important part is this. What they want from you is not shallow attention. It is not temporary entertainment. It is not empty conversation to ease boredom. What they crave is something far rarer. They want to know if what they feel has been one-sided, or if somewhere within your silence, within your own heart, you have felt this too. They are wondering if the strange pull between you has lived in both directions. They are wondering if your thoughts drift toward them in quiet moments the way theirs drift toward you. They are wondering if the unspoken tension they feel is real, or only their own heart hoping for more. And because that question remains unanswered, they linger at the edge of expression, gathering courage. Because to speak now would mean risking everything. It would mean stepping beyond comfort. It would mean admitting that one person, one connection, one presence, has mattered more than they intended. But still, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, despite every reason to remain silent, the desire to speak continues growing stronger. Something is shifting within them now. A threshold is being approached. A silence is nearing its end. They may not fully understand it yet, but their heart has already chosen what their mind is still trying to process. And when the heart reaches that point, words are never far behind. Because soon, very soon, what has remained hidden beneath their restraint may no longer stay hidden at all. And when that moment finally arrives, when the truth they have carried too long begins to spill into the open, you will understand why every strange feeling, every subtle sign, every unexplainable pull led to this. Because the conversation they are longing to have with you is not just about missing you, it is about finally telling you who you became to them, and what they may reveal next. Changes everything. What they have not told you yet, what has remained locked behind restraint and silence, is that this connection has begun reshaping the way they move through their days. They may appear composed on the outside, unchanged, unaffected, but beneath that surface, something has been unfolding with quiet intensity. Your name has become tied to moments that should have belonged to no one. A song plays, and somehow it reminds them of you. A stranger says something ordinary, and suddenly your voice echoes in their memory. They go about their routine, trying to focus on what is in front of them, yet pieces of you keep appearing in the spaces between their thoughts like light slipping through cracks in a closed room. That is when they knew this had become more than attraction, more than curiosity, more than a passing fascination. You had become part of the rhythm of their inner world. And once someone reaches that place in a person's heart, they are not easily forgotten. There are nights when they sit alone replaying everything, searching for clues they may have missed. They revisit your words, your tone, the way you looked at them during moments others might consider insignificant. They wonder if perhaps you were feeling something too, if maybe there were hidden meanings behind your gentleness, your attention, your presence. They analyze the smallest details because when someone matters deeply, even the smallest moments begin to feel enormous. A glance becomes unforgettable, a conversation becomes sacred, a brief silence becomes loaded with meaning. This is where they are now, trapped in the beautiful ache of wondering whether the connection they feel is truly shared, or whether they have fallen alone into something far deeper than expected. And still, even with all this emotion building inside them, they have tried to remain rational. They have tried to control it. They have told themselves to wait, to be patient, to not assume too much. But feelings do not disappear simply because they are inconvenient. Hearts do not obey logic forever. The truth is, the more they suppress what they feel, the more powerful it becomes. What began as a quiet awareness has transformed into a constant pull, a need to know, a longing for clarity they can no longer ignore. They are reaching a point where silence feels heavier than risk. And when someone arrives at that point, change follows. Something important is waiting for you in this realization. They are not merely preparing to speak because they miss your company. They are preparing because they fear losing the chance to tell you what you have meant to them before life moves too far ahead. There comes a moment in every meaningful connection when someone realizes that waiting forever is its own kind of loss. That remaining silent can become more painful than rejection. That wondering, what if, for years is more unbearable than simply knowing the truth. They are approaching that moment now. A realization has begun settling into them. If they do not speak soon, they may regret it more than anything. But what makes this even deeper is the reason they hesitate. It is not pride alone. It is not uncertainty alone. It is because what they feel for you carries unusual weight. If this were shallow, they would have spoken carelessly by now. If this were fleeting, they would have moved on without struggle. But because it feels rare, because it feels real, because it touches places within them they do not show easily, they approach it carefully. People protect what matters most. They move slowly when their heart is truly at stake. Their caution is not disinterest. Their hesitation is not absence of feeling. It is evidence that what they carry for you has become too meaningful to treat lightly. There are things they imagine saying to you, words they have rehearsed countless times in silence. They imagine telling you that meeting you changed something in them. They imagine confessing that your presence brought warmth to places within them they thought had gone cold. They imagine admitting that no matter how much time passes, no one seems to affect them the way you do. But each time they reach that imagined confession, another thought follows close behind. What if the feeling is not mutual? What if I risk everything and find out I cared more? What if I reveal my heart, and it changes the connection forever? These questions haunt them, yet even haunted hearts eventually grow tired of hiding. So if their energy has felt different lately, if something about their presence seems heavier, more focused, more deliberate, it is because an internal shift is taking place. They are moving from denial into acceptance, from confusion into clarity, from wondering whether they should speak, to wondering how much longer they can stay silent. That transformation is subtle at first, invisible, even, but once it begins, it rarely stops. And here is what they are slowly accepting: you did not enter their life to be ordinary. You did not pass through their world to leave no trace. You arrived and awakened something dormant. You became the standard against which others are now unconsciously measured. You became the thought that returns when all distractions fade. You became the possibility that lingers, the connection they secretly hope has not slipped away. Whether they intended it or not, their heart has built a place for you. Don't skip, because this matters more than you realize. There is a difference between someone liking your presence, and someone feeling altered by it. They were altered by you. The way they think about connection has changed. The way they think about emotional depth has changed. Even the way they understand themselves has changed. You caused reflection within them. You stirred questions they were not asking before. You made them consider futures they had not imagined before your arrival. That is not a small thing. That is not casual. That is not forgettable. And now, beneath everything else, one truth has become impossible for them to deny. They want to know what this could become if both of you stop pretending there is nothing here. They want to know what happens if honesty replaces hesitation. They want to know what unfolds if this unspoken tension is finally acknowledged instead of hidden. They want to know whether the thing they have felt building between you has been leading towards something greater all along. But timing still stands between desire and action. They are waiting for the right opening, the right sign, the right moment where vulnerability feels possible. They are watching more carefully than you realize, listening more closely than you know, searching for even the smallest signal that their honesty would be safe in your hands. Because when someone is preparing to reveal what their heart has hidden, they become attentive to everything. A tone, a gesture, a shift in your energy, a sentence spoken casually that they will replay for hours afterward. They are looking for reassurance, even if they never admit it. And when they finally receive enough of it, when the fear softens just enough to let courage through, they will speak. Not perfectly, not in some flawless cinematic confession, but honestly, humanly, vulnerably, in the only way that matters, real. And when they do, you may realize the conversation you thought would be simple carries far more weight than expected. Because beneath their words will be all the nights they stayed silent, all the feelings they buried, all the moments they nearly reached out but stopped themselves. This is not random. This is not fleeting. This is not the kind of connection that disappears quietly. It is becoming louder within them by the day. And what they are on the verge of admitting is not merely that they have thought about you, not merely that they miss you, not merely that they want to speak. It is something deeper than that. Something they have only recently found the courage to name. Because what they are beginning to understand is that somewhere along the way, their feelings for you became far more serious than they ever planned. And when they reveal just how serious, nothing between you will feel the same again. Somewhere between resisting their emotions and surrendering to them, they crossed a line they never expected to cross. A quiet, invisible line where admiration became attachment, where curiosity became longing, where simple interest transformed into something they now struggle to contain. And what unsettles them most is not that these feelings grew, it is how naturally they did. There was no dramatic moment, no obvious turning point, no warning that their heart was drifting somewhere deeper. It happened in fragments, in subtle glances, in lingering thoughts, in the way your presence stayed with them long after you were gone. Until one day they realized the truth they had been avoiding. They no longer simply enjoyed your presence. They had started needing it in ways they never intended. That realization changed everything inside them. Because once a person understands that someone has become emotionally significant, the world begins to feel different. Their routines stay the same, yet nothing feels entirely ordinary anymore. The smallest interactions with you begin carrying unusual weight. A brief message can shift their entire mood. A delayed response can make them wonder more than it should. A moment of warmth from you can stay with them for hours, sometimes days. This is where they are now, living in a space where your presence affects them more than they are comfortable admitting. And perhaps the most powerful part of all, is that they know this has gone beyond their control. There are moments when they try to convince themselves they are imagining the connection, that maybe they have simply romanticized what exists between you. But then something happens, a look from you, a moment of understanding, a feeling they cannot explain, and all their doubts disappear again. Because every time they attempt to reduce this into something ordinary, the connection proves itself to be anything but ordinary. There is something in the way you understand them without requiring explanation. Something in the way your energy reaches places within them others never seem to touch. Something in the way being around you creates a strange mixture of peace and intensity at once, as if their heart feels both calm and awakened in your presence. They cannot fake indifference to that anymore. And now, beneath all their hesitation, another truth is forming. A truth they have barely allowed themselves to think fully. It is not just that they care for you deeply. It is not just that they miss you when you are absent. It is not just that they long to hear your voice. It is that they are beginning to imagine a future where you remain in their life. They have started picturing possibilities, quietly, secretly, without telling anyone. They wonder what ordinary days would feel like with you woven into them. They wonder what it would be like to stop hiding what they feel and simply let the connection unfold. They wonder whether the peace they sense around you could become something lasting, something real, something life-changing. Stay till the end, because this next truth is the one they fear most. With these feelings has come vulnerability unlike anything they expected. For the first time in a long time, perhaps the first time in years, they care enough to be afraid. Afraid of misreading the signs. Afraid of speaking too soon. Afraid of discovering that what feels profound to them was never meant the same way by you. When feelings remain unspoken, hope can survive untouched. But once truth is revealed, reality answers back. And reality may heal, or it may wound. That is why they have delayed. Not because their feelings are weak, because they are strong enough to matter. Yet no matter how much fear remains, desire is overtaking. Caution. The urge to tell you has become harder to suppress with each passing day. They are growing tired of pretending their interest is casual. Tired of acting unaffected. Tired of speaking with restraint when what they truly want is honesty. They are nearing the point where their heart will no longer allow them to hide behind caution. And when someone reaches that threshold, the truth eventually escapes, no matter how carefully they try to contain it. What they want you to understand, if they ever find the courage to say it plainly, is that you have become rare to them. Not because you are perfect, not because you fit some impossible fantasy, but because something about you feels genuine in a world that often feels temporary. Something about your spirit feels grounding, magnetic, deeply familiar. You make them feel both challenged and understood, drawn in and at peace, curious and comforted. That combination is not common. That combination is unforgettable, and once someone encounters it, they do not move on easily. There have been nights when they lay awake asking themselves questions they never thought they would ask about anyone. Why does this person matter so much to me? Why do I keep coming back to them in my mind? Why does their absence feel louder than it should? Why does the idea of losing this connection before understanding it feel unbearable? These are not the questions of a passing attraction. These are the questions of a heart recognizing that something deeper has taken root. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this entire story is that they do not admire only what you show the world. They are drawn to what lives beneath the surface, the depth in your silence, the strength in your softness, the emotions you carry without always explaining, the complexity in you that others may overlook. They sense layers within you, and instead of fearing them, they are pulled toward them. They do not want only your bright moments. They feel connected even to the hidden parts of you, the thoughtful parts, the guarded parts, the quiet parts no one else notices. That is why their feelings continue growing, because what they see in you feels deeper than appearances. It feels soulful. And now they are standing at the edge of a decision. Continue hiding and risk watching this connection drift into uncertainty, or finally step forward and risk everything for the chance that what they feel is returned. That is the battle consuming them now, not whether they care. That question has already been answered. The battle is whether courage will arrive before opportunity fades. Something important is waiting for you in what comes next, because when they do speak, and they are moving closer to that moment than ever before, they will not merely be confessing attraction. They will be revealing that you have become emotionally irreplaceable to them in ways they never intended. They will be admitting that your presence has affected them more deeply than anyone realizes. They will be confessing that in a world full of temporary people and passing moments, you became someone permanent in their heart before they even noticed it happening. And once those words leave them, once the truth is finally spoken, once the silence between you is replaced by honesty, there will be no returning to what things were before, because what they are preparing to tell you is not simply that they care, not simply that they feel drawn to you, not simply that they think about you often. It is that somewhere in all this silence, somewhere in all these unspoken moments, somewhere between hesitation and hope, they began falling for you far more deeply than they ever meant to, and the way they choose to reveal that truth may happen sooner than either of you expects.